What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio and welcome to Stat Diggers for UFC Vegas 80. We have Grant Dawson going against Bobby Green. We are returning after a 1 week break. And really looking forward to being back here. We did 17 weeks in a row, got that week off, and we are ready to get back after it. 3 weeks, and then we have another week off. But as always, we're here with Uncle Weezy. Weezy, what is up? And are you looking forward to being back here?
Yeah, much needed week off. Absolutely much needed week off. I went to Greece for 10 days and really just unwound and enjoyed the scenery. Got on the beach, drank, smoked, enjoyed everything that I did there. And it was phenomenal. So after getting that much needed vacation in a beautiful place with beautiful people, I'm ready to be back, man. And now we're getting into that part of the year, Brady, where it's actually reasonable, where we're getting 3 weeks and then a week off for Halloween, 3 weeks and then a week off for Thanksgiving, 3 weeks and then we got the end of the year. So it's really in that stretch now where the workload is very manageable and we can really put the work in, having these weeks off every 3 weeks to stay ahead, catch up, get some good opening lines, and stack cash tickets like flapjack. So I'm looking forward to this card. A lot of juiced lines, but that doesn't mean we can't find some ways to make some money here. So let's break it down.
Let's do it, Weezy. Yeah, it was a good week off. I spent a lot of the week setting up the baby room. Had to put together like a crib, a bassinet, like a chair, just everything. So that took a while. I mowed the lawn a couple times, did it twice. I mowed it down and mowed it really short, hoping this is the last time I had to mow. And what else did I do? Contender series, did contender series as well. But other than that, just took some mental days off. I stayed off of Twitter, which was pretty good as well. But yeah, we're back and we're looking forward to it. Weezy, the last card we had was UFC Vegas 79. We'll do a quick recap of that, which was 2 weeks ago. I'm really curious to hear what you had because I completely forget at this point.
So we did Stat Diggers on Sunday, and then I left, I left the crack of dawn on Tuesday for Greece. And then when I got to Greece, I realized that ESPN Plus, which is a horrible product here in the USA. I mean, here in the USA, ESPN Plus sucks beyond all imagination for something that you pay for. But in Greece, it doesn't even fucking work. You can't even watch anything on there. And then they have the monopoly on recent UFC fights. So when you go to UFC Fight Pass, which actually does work because it's not a trash product like ESPN Plus, you couldn't watch the fights there either. So I got to Greece, couldn't get on any gambling sites. They're all blocked there. Couldn't watch any tape. So I was basically stuck with the bets that I had already had at that point, the bets that I had made before I left for Greece very early in the week after Stat Diggers. And that was the under 1.5 rounds in the Cody Brundage Malkoun fight. That was plus 210. I had it for 1 unit. So I won 2.1 units on that bet. And then I had 1.15 units on the Dan Ige finish only prop. So that was a push. So I was up 2.1 units on that card, but it was pretty damn frustrating because I got to Greece, wanted to watch the Tuesday Night Contender series, couldn't watch that, couldn't watch the fucking fights on Saturday because ESPN Plus is absolute trash, and then couldn't watch the Contender series again on Tuesday. I missed 3 straight events. Haven't been able to watch mixed martial arts since I left for Greece. So I'm really looking forward to this next card. And then hopefully after we get all the content done this week, Brady, I'll be able to go back and catch up on all the fights that I missed out on. But yeah, up 2.1 units last week on only one bet that actually went to a decision or not. So I can't complain. I can. I just spent like 10 minutes complaining about ESPN Plus, but I definitely can't complain about the results. How did it go for you, man?
Pretty good. I'm with you. I didn't really bet much, but I'd say it's probably my most efficient week of the year. I had the Charles Jourdain finish only 1 unit minus 136. He ended up submitting Ricardo Ramos in the first round, which I wasn't expecting at all, but we got it done. I was also on that Ige scorecards, no action. It really wasn't that close to being finished, other than Bryce Mitchell's eye completely closing shut. But Mitchell was able to tough through it. At the under 2.5 rounds in the Means Fiallo fight, 1 unit minus 175, close to not hitting, but I think it hit with like less than a minute to spare. And then the way I played the Brundage Malkoon fight was I put a quarter unit on Brundage round 1. I felt like that was his win condition. And then I put a half unit on Malkoon round 2, and then Malkoon round 3. Obviously, the Brundage round 1 came through plus 1,700. I was doing my live stream on Friday, and I saw that Brundage round 1 was plus 1,700, and I thought it was like a mistake line. And then I logged into my sports book and it was actually there. So I bet it for a quarter unit. Was not expecting it to hit that way, but you gotta take it when you can. And then I also had Brian Battle inside the distance, half a unit plus 160. It's pretty much a perfect night. The only thing that I was not too happy with was I was going to sprinkle those Battle 2-3 props in the second round, which obviously came through, but up plus 5.61 units on a card where I didn't really bet much. And the week before that, I was up 9.28 units. So really good September overall, and a pretty good year overall, I think, for me and you both.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on a 3-event winning streak, over 2 units on each one of those last 3 cards. But I'm coming out of a little bit of a funk. Had a little bit of a losing streak before that, so looking to just kind of push forward. But yeah, I mean, I'm up some units on the year. The return on investment is approaching 10% on the year. It's nothing spectacular. I'm not knocking the cover off the ball or anything, but I'm staying profitable and hopefully just going to build on this winning streak that I'm on right now.
And it all starts with UFC Vegas 80, Grant Dawson, Bobby Green. Can't believe this is the main event, but it should be fun. Like, I think it's gonna be a fun fight. It's just, I don't know, it just kind of feels weird that this is gonna be main eventing the card. I do want to shout out the chat before we get started. And the first one in here at 5:08 Eastern time was Mushroom saying, "What's up, Brady? Uncle Weezy? 6 more sleeps. What's up, Mushroom? Hopefully your week off was well." We got Propaholic in the building, CLV champion, Propaholic with the $9.99. Appreciate you, Propaholic, for the dono. And yeah, Propaholic did actually order a CLV trophy. So me and him are the only people with a CLV trophy. But Weezy, I have a feeling you might get a trophy this week after you nailed the CLV already on some of your bets. So we'll see if you can get that CLV trophy yourself. We got Pablo in chat. We got Brown Belt Dave. We got our guy, Lou Betcha, which, by the way, Weezy, you and Lou in the week off did a interview with what's it? How do you pronounce his name?
Cortavius, are you not entertained, Ramius? He is a cool dude. Lou and I had a really fun time interviewing that guy. Check that one out on the MMA Engine YouTube channel. He's a good prospect, up and coming, well-rounded kid, a lot of power, good grappling, good wrestling. So I'm looking forward to seeing him on DWCS. Woke up at 3:30 a.m. Greece time to get on the call with Lou and interview that dude. So we had a great time with that one too.
I saw that. I was really impressed with you, Weezy, waking up that early and doing as well as you did. That was very professional of you to go out there and complete that interview the way you did. And yeah, I can't wait for his Contender Series fight. That'll be week 10. We got Amir in the chat. We got Pub Sports Radio in the chat as well. And Luke cashes the hat. Yeah, I mean, I'm having a bad hair day. Bad hair day today. It's rough. Justin saying, "I hate football." I do as well. I made a draft. I did DraftKings today, Weezy, because there was no UFC this weekend, and like all my players got hurt. Like I had Javonte Williams, I had like Devontae Adams who got hurt early on. It was just rough for me. So I'm glad UFC is back. Raphael, we got Jack in here as well. What is up, everybody? All right, Weezy, I say we get right into it, and we're going to start with the first fight of the card. We have Montana De La Rosa going against JJ Aldrich, which I think is the closest line fight on the card right now. We got De La Rosa, 28 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. JJ Aldrich, 30 years old, 5'5" with a 67-inch reach. Montana De La Rosa, 2 years younger, 2-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage. Montana De La Rosa, she is 2-2 or 1-2 or 1-3. There we go. It's been a week, guys. 1-3 and 1 draw in her last 5 fights. A decision loss against Viviane Araújo, a draw against Mara Bueno Silva, a knockout win against Ariana Lipski, a decision loss to Macy Barber, and a submission loss to Tatiana Suarez. As far as JJ Aldrich, she is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. Decision win against Vanessa Demopoulos, decision win against Jillian Robertson, a submission loss to Erin Blanchfield, a decision loss to Ariana Lipski, and then a knockout win against my girl, Liang Na. So, like I said, Weezy, it is a very closely lined fight here. It's about a pick 'em on some books. De La Rosa's a very, very slight favorite on some books. We have Aldrich, who's a very, very slight favorite. It is a striker versus grappler matchup. On the feet, it's really not close. JJ Aldrich is going to be the better striker here. I guess it's all going to come down to whether or not Montana De La Rosa is going to be able to implement her game plan, which is going to be getting the fight down to the mat. Tricky fight to call, I'd say. I was looking through Montana De La Rosa's record, though, and when she is losing, she's losing to very good competition. She lost to Tatiana Suarez, very good fighter. Macy Barber, very good fighter. Viviane Araújo, very good fighter. Andrea Lee, decent fighter. And then she had that draw against Mara Bueno Silva. So I guess it's going to come down to whether or not Montana De La Rosa can take down and hold down Aldrich. And if she can, she wins this fight. But if not, Aldrich is going to be the better striker. Weezy, what do you think about this striker versus grappler matchup to kick off the card here?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because you've got some advantages here for Montana. For instance, she's a little over 2 years younger. She's 2 inches taller. She's got that 1 inch reach advantage. 3 more pro fights, a few more minutes in the pro cage. She's the much better finisher, Brady. Obviously, everybody's a better finisher than JJ Aldrich, but you're talking about 8 submissions and 1 knockout for Montana, 75% career finish rate as a pro, and she's finished 4 of her 5 UFC wins here. And we know that she's the better wrestler. She's attempting 6.06 takedowns per 15 minutes. She's out controlling her opponents 40% to 17%, winning over 70% of the control time positions that she's in. And she's only spending about 43% of her UFC cage time at distance striking range. So she's been effective. Even if she can't quite get the fight to the ground, she's clinching up with you. She's wearing on you, and she's making it difficult for you to just kind of operate at distance striking range. Now, the thing that kind of surprised me with JJ Aldrich, she's 8-5 in the UFC, Brady, really good record. 175 minutes of cage time, and she's standing about 73% of the time. So I was kind of thinking to myself, her striking metrics must be a lot better than Montana De La Rosa's. But Montana's got like a negative 0.86 distance striking differential, and for JJ Aldrich, it's negative 0.72. So they're both absorbing more strikes at distance than they're landing. It's just that Montana couldn't hit the floor if she fell out of bed, dude. She's getting, 29.5% accuracy at distance. So JJ's a lot more accurate than her at distance, about 13% more. And she's also a lot more defensively responsible at range. 64% defense for JJ compared to 51% for Montana. So, yeah, JJ should be the better distance striker, but her numbers are just not that great at range. It's not like, she's this dominant striker where if Montana doesn't get her to the ground, it's just completely over. That's not the case here. And then you look at the strength of schedule. It's Montana who's fighting the better brand of competition. But let's face it, both of these ladies' wins are pretty much ass, right? Let's break it down. For Montana De La Rosa, the wins are Christina Marks, Rachel Ostovich, Nadia Assam, Mara Romero Barella, and Ariane Lipsky. And for JJ, it's Chan Mi John, Danielle Taylor, Pauliana Viana, Lauren Princess Tiger Mueller, Courtney Casey, Vanessa Demopoulos, who was up a weight class on short notice, and then a good win over Jillian Robertson. And then I'm sorry, Brady, Liang Na's a bum. So,
hey, come on.
But come on. What, 0-4 in the UFC now? 0-3?
So is De Silva. So is Daniel De Silva.
Yes, that's true. That's true. But, it's not about that. It's just that, neither one of these ladies really has any. Jillian Robertson for JJ Aldrich, definitely the best win on this card, for both ladies. So, there are a lot of advantages here, though, that I like for Montana. She's the better finisher. She's younger. She's taller. She's got the reach advantage. And she's the much better wrestler. But I think that this fight's going to be close, dude.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that the line is right about kind of like where it needs to be. But these people that were betting Montana earlier in the week at plus 110, plus 105, plus 100. Yeah, I get that. That makes sense to me. I think I'm going to lean Montana here because I think she's going to have some success with the wrestling here, but I don't think it's going to be like that big of a blowout on the feet, to be honest with you. JJ's just okay at distance.
Yeah, I mean, JJ's not gonna like knock her out or hurt or nothing like that. But yeah, I mean, I do lean De La Rosa as well. I would have liked to get plus money at this point. I'm just gonna sit back and wait. Looks like there is still plus money on De La Rosa at Jazz Sports and Sports Interaction and Pinnacle Sports and Betway, but I don't have any of those books. So yeah, I'm gonna pass on this one, but I do like De La Rosa. And I was also thinking about maybe like the De La Rosa finish only because De La Rosa is actually a very good finisher, whereas JJ Aldrich barely finished Liang Na. And if you're barely finishing Liang Na, like something's wrong. Like I had the under 2.5 in the Liang Na fight. You should never be worried about a Liang Na under not hitting. And it like barely hit. So she barely got her out of there. So yeah, maybe the finish only for De La Rosa, but maybe they're going to be wise to maybe not. Maybe they set it at minus 115 a piece and make a mistake. I don't know. But the finish only for De La Rosa. De La Rosa at plus money, I don't hate, but it's a fight that, like you said, probably gonna be pretty close here.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth with the De La Rosa finish only prop because it's a closely lined fight. You never know. You might get it. You know, if you get it at better than minus 150 for Montana, you should absolutely bet it. I mean, JJ Aldrich couldn't finish a glass of water. So, you know, you got to feel like if somebody gets finished here, it's going to be Aldrich and Brady. Montana De La Rosa by submission. Montana's 8-2 to the submission in her career. JJ Aldrich 0-2 to the submission. So there's a couple. There's some interesting ways to play this fight. De La Rosa finish only. De La Rosa by sub. De La Rosa inside the distance. If you can get fat numbers on any of those, I think that they're worth a shot.
Oh, there's gonna be some fat numbers on these De La Rosa finish props because the under 2.5 is plus 300.
There you go. There you go. That's a great way to look at this one, dude.
Could be. Yep. I don't hate it. Especially that finish only, though. I'll be looking out for that finish only, hoping one of these books mess it up. But next we have Nate Maness going against Mateus Mendoza. Mendoza, right? Or is it, how do you pronounce it?
Just pretend like it's Mendoza. Mendoza.
Mendoza,
yeah.
Sorry, guys, I haven't done my pronunciation practices yet. Nate Maness, he is 32 years old, 5'10", with a 72-inch reach. Mendoza, he is 24 years old, 5'6", with a 71-inch reach. We have Mendoza, who's going to be 8 years younger. Nate Maness is going to be having a 4-inch height advantage and a 1-inch reach advantage. We take a look at their last few fights. We have Maness 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A decision win against Johnny Munoz Jr., a submission win against Luke Sanders, a knockout win against Tony Gravely, a decision loss to Umar Nurmagomedov, and then a submission loss to Tagir Ulanbekov. As far as Mendoza, he's 4-1 in his last 5 fights, had a knockout win on the Contender Series in like 60 seconds or less, and then went out there against Javid Bashrat and lost that fight by decision. So, Weezy, you know, there's some fighters in the UFC, right, where, you know, you just can't get it right. You know, you can't get their fights right. Like for you, for example, the guy you can't really get right is actually on this card. He's Abdul Razak Al-Hassan. And my Abdul Razak Al-Hassan is Nate Maness, dude. Like, I've lost so much money on Nate Maness fights. The Johnny Munoz fight. I had Johnny Munoz in that fight. I thought at the very least it was a draw. I thought you could have even scored the fight for Johnny Munoz. Nate Maness looks horrible, but still wins. Against Luke Sanders, I bet Luke Sanders. Luke Sanders goes out there, beats the crap out of Nate Maness for like a round and a half, and then ends up gassing out, and Nate Maness goes out there and gets a finish. This one hurt. I had Tony Gravely, and I was so confident in Tony Gravely. Tony Gravely goes out there and knocks him out at the end of the first round. You know, the ref could have stopped it. Nate Maness looked like he was dead, laying there after the first, and then he somehow comes back in the second and knocks out Tony Gravely. And then the Umar Nurmagomedov fight, I had the under 2.5. And it went to the decision. Umar just laid on him for 15 minutes. So I just can't get this guy right. You know, I can't get the method, the pick, nothing right with Nate Maness. So I have retired from betting on his fight. But Weezy, you actually do have a bet on this fight, which I actually don't mind. But you know what kind of worries me about Nate Maness here is this weight cut to 125 pounds. Like, it makes no sense. Like, who is letting him do this? Like, I sent the picture to you. There was a picture that was circulating of Nate
You got to
Maness
show it.
after his weight cut against Tagir Ulanbekov. Like, dude, who's letting this happen? This is not this is an actual pick here. This is not photoshopped. This is Nate Maness. I mean, Nate Maness, what are you doing? So he went out there. He shouldn't be fighting at 125, man. This guy's 5'10". He's gonna have a big height advantage here. But you know, this weight cut is not something I really like for Nate Maness. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight here?
Yeah, and don't forget, dude. I mean, this is going to be Mateus Mendoza's first cut down to flyweight as well. You know, so that picture of Maness is scary. You know, I mean, I don't even think that dude has big ears, but in that picture, he looks like Dumbo because literally all the fat has been drained out of his face, and he looks like a fucking vampire. I mean, look at
Like
that,
Sergey
dude.
Spivak. Looks like Spivak.
Yeah, dude, he looks scarier than Spivak. Look at those dead eyes. Look at that vacant stare. That looks like a guy who hasn't eaten in a long time, you know? So, yeah, man, that's a very, very scary thing. So, not only is Maness at 5'10", Brady, 5'10", cutting down to 125, but we've never seen Mendoza at 125 either. So, I think that narrative wise is a really big part of this fight because you know there are some obvious advantages here for Nate Maness. I mean, not just the measurables advantages here, but he's got 6 more professional fights, almost 6 more years as a pro fighter, like twice as much cage time in comparison to Mendoza. And he's got 4 more UFC fights, 30 more minutes in the octagon. Nate's got power, dude. 2 knockdowns in only 91 significant strikes landed and only 61 distance strikes landed. What a couple of those coming up at bantamweight. You know, Mendoza's explosive. He's a baby, dude. This kid isn't even 25 years old yet, and he's already got 11 pro fights and 75 minutes in the pro cage. Mendoza fights out of Shoot Box Diego Lima. That is a hot camp right now. But with both of these guys cutting down to 125, when I saw that there was plus money on the under 2.5 rounds here, where you got Maness finishing 2 of his 3 UFC wins, you got Mendoza with his 70% career finish rate. Maness has been finished in 2 of his 3 pro losses. And frankly, at 125, you know, after you don't get finished by Umar Nurmagomedov up at 135, how the hell do you get subbed by Tagir Ulanbekov in the very next fight? What was that, first round, too?
Yeah, I think so.
First round submission, you know? So, yeah, I don't think Nate should be cutting down to 125, and I hardly think that that's a controversial statement. And we really don't know what Mendoza is going to look like down there either. So I figure violence is probably the way to go here. Somebody's going to get served. And both of these guys are explosive and have power in their own right. So, yeah, I bet that under 2.5 rounds. Where did I get that, Brady?
115.
Yeah, plus 115. I just missed the plus 130. So I like that spot. But as far as who's going to win this fight, man, I don't know. I got to look a little bit deeper into it. But I think both of these guys are live. This should be a close line, right?
Yeah, it's let's see. No, it's not at all. Mendoza is minus at 225 and Nate Maness is plus 190. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Mendoza is training at Shoot the Box Diego Lima, who like you said, the gym's been very hot.
The younger guy, very explosive, so you love that. But there's a lot of reasons to like Maness here too. So if he gets the weight cut dialed in, this, I mean, I don't know how you could. I don't know how you can easily cut to 126 when you're 5'10", but he could look better at it this time around. But that line, I didn't even really look at that money line until now, Brady. That seems silly to me. This guy's plus 190 to Mendoza, who hasn't really proven anything yet up at this level. And he's making his first cut down to 125. So he could be compromised. He could be less durable than usual. Yikes, man. This one's high variance. I think plus 190 on Nate Maness is a very bettable line. I see this fight as being very close to 50-50, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't bet on Nate Maness fights anymore, and I could be very confident in Mendoza, but it wouldn't really matter. And I think Dirty Reg is right here. If I do go against Maness here, I'll probably lose more money. So this is one. I'm not betting Mendoza at minus 225 though. That's a little ridiculous there. But I think the under at plus money was good. Wheezy. I'm not going to get anywhere near plus money. It's already minus 130. Probaholic got it at plus 140. So he beat the line by a whole dollar, and that's why Probaholic's currently holding the CLV trophy. And I might have to mail you mine, Wheezy. I might have to mail it out after.
Yeah, just for this week though.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, like you've been crushing line movement too. So I mean, you deserve that trophy. I might just have to copy you and buy one for myself, and maybe I'll just be a big prick, Brady, and buy like a bigger one than what you got. You know, but yeah, man, this is gonna be a fun fight, dude. With both these guys cutting down to 125, I think there'll be a lot of variance. I think there's a high probability of a finish, and Mendoza and Maness both very exciting to watch. So should be a great fight.
It definitely should be a Nate Maness fight, which are, like I said, for me, they're just impossible to nail. Like I didn't expect Ulan Bekov to finish Maness in the first round either. Like I don't think I've gotten one of Maness's fights right ever. So I think I'm just gonna stay away from it. All right, Wheezy, let's move on to the next fight. We have Vanessa Demopoulos going against the very, very, very handsome Kanako Murata. We have Vanessa Demopoulos, 34 years old, 5'2", with a 59-inch reach. Murata, she is 30 years old, 5'1", with a 62-inch reach. We got Murata 4 years younger, 1-inch height disadvantage, and a 3-inch reach advantage. We got Demopoulos, who is 3-2 in her last 5 fights. A decision loss against JJ Aldrich, submission win against Savannah Gomez Juarez, a decision win against Jinh Yu Frey, a decision win against Maria Oliveira, and then a decision loss to Karolina Kowalkiewicz. As far as the very handsome Murata, she is 4-1 in her last 5 fights. She had a couple good wins outside the UFC. That win against Cody, and then she got in the UFC, made her debut against Marcos, had a very good win there, and then she lost via technically a knockout to Verna Jandiroba due to her arm breaking. She refused to dap, and my submission ticket on Verna Jandiroba got thrown in the trash. It was like plus 300, 400, something like that. But yeah, so I saw the line, and I was like, what the heck's going on? And then I saw this picture, and I now know why Murata's like minus 400. I mean, look at that. I mean, if you're going to wear something like that, you got to be damn good. You got to be damn good to wear something like that. And she is, man. I was really impressed with Murata. Like, she's very, very good with her wrestling, with her grappling, with her control. Her cardio is good. I've seen her go 25 minutes. She's really good. Her striking's not the best, but she's going to have a striking advantage here just because anybody's going to have a striking advantage against Demopoulos. And I guess it's going to be interesting because anytime somebody tries to take down Demopoulos, she kind of folds like a lawn chair. We saw Corey McKenna go for takedowns and get them with little to no resistance. So yeah, I think on paper, it's a pretty easy matchup for Murata. She's just going to have to watch the armbar from guard. And if she's able to watch that, I think she cruises here. Probably a decision, maybe a submission, but Demopoulos, super tough, never been finished, black belt. But I think, this is going to be a dominant win for Murata. Minus 400, what are you going to do? But, I think Demopoulos is pretty much, sub or bust from bottom. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight and that outfit, man? I mean, look at that.
Yeah, you got to love that, man. This is an interesting fight for several different reasons. Number one, I'm pretty sure nobody's ever seen Kanako Murata and Tatsuro Taira in the same room at the same time. So that, I mean, seriously, dude, I mean, that's something we should probably talk about here. Maybe that's why she's wearing this fucking mask all the time, is because, she doesn't want everyone to know that, like the hair on those two is just identical, and they're both phenomenal grapplers, so, I mean, I could really see that being a possible angle for people to look more into here. But Kanako Murata did get a serious arm injury against Verna Jandiroba, and Brady, a 2-year and 2-month layoff at this point. Now, she's still only 30 years old, so layoffs at that point of your career, not as bad as like a layoff when you're like 34 and then you're coming back at 36. But Kanako is a phenomenal wrestler. So, it's really hard to see this fight kind of like going any other way, but Kanako going out there, easily getting takedowns, passing the half guard, and then just punishing Vanessa on the ground while avoiding the submission attempts here. But Vanessa's 4-0 to the submission in her career. Murata 4-1 to the submission in her career, but she's really like 4-2 to the submission in her career if we count the Virna Jandiroba arm break as a submission instead of a knockout. So, there is, if you're thinking of betting Vanessa Demopoulos, my suggestion would be just bet the submission prop or even the finish only prop. You might get it at a fat plus money number. And I'm telling you guys, you can always count on the durability of Vanessa Demopoulos. She has got a ironclad chin, and she's a phenomenal submission grappler. That really is her base. She's flexible. She's got great submissions. She's a black belt, like you said, Brady. So, I think there could be some cheeky value on a Demopoulos by sub prop, on a Demopoulos finish only prop. And I'd like to see what Kaneko Murata's decision prop opens up at as well, because I think that that's her best path here. But yeah, you got to be careful, Brady. I mean, you don't want to lay minus 375 on a women's favorite coming off an arm break against somebody whose best submission is the arm bar and who's probably going to be on her back most of this fight. So Kaneko Murata by decision is the pick, but hard to lay minus 375 on somebody coming off an over 2-year layoff and a serious injury here, especially when the style with which she fights is going to put Vanessa in situations that she's pretty comfortable with, which is just playing BJJ off of her back. So interesting matchup here. I don't know what you're thinking, but there might be some ways to profit off of this one if Vanessa doesn't get finished.
Yeah. Initially I was thinking maybe Demopoulos might be live, but I was actually really impressed with the grappling of Murata. I know she got subbed by Virna, but I mean, Virna is one of the best grapplers in the division, so I don't hold that against her too much. I'm kind of with Probaholic here. Fight to end by sub is something I might look for as well. And I was maybe thinking the Demopoulos finish only, but like I said, I was really impressed with Murata in terms of the grappling. I think I'm going to stay away from this one. But yeah, Murata's a pretty big favorite, probably a popular parlay piece. Looks like as we were talking, she just got hit a little bit more. So yeah, I think Murata wins, but laying minus 375 just seems kind of stupid. But I don't know. I think she wins, and I'm pretty confident in it.
Yep. Yeah. And, and Vanessa Demopoulos, the fighting pride of Greece, the country that I just got back from. So I'll be rooting for the Greek girl here to pull this off against Tetsuro Taira's alter ego. But Kaneko's damn good, dude. Really good wrestling, really good top control. So Vanessa's really got her work cut out for her in this matchup.
And she wears a cool mask, and she actually wears it in public as well. There was a picture where she was wearing it. She wears it all the time. It's and hopefully she wears it this week. Where is it? There's a picture, and there is the mask by itself, by the way. And then there's what is she eating there? What is she eating? Is that cake? I don't know.
What that is.
But yeah, she's very handsome, and she has a cool mask as well. So yeah, I'm a big fan. We haven't seen her in a while though, but I think she should go out there and get the job done there. And looks like she is training with who was she training with? I think she was training with Mizuki Inoue. I think I saw her in a picture with Mizuki Inoue as well.
Yeah, Mizuki's definitely a legend of women's mixed martial arts in Japan, and Kaneko is on her way to being that if she can stay healthy and active here for the next few years.
Yep, we shall see. As long as she doesn't fight Virna Jandiroba, she should be all right. But we'll move on to a disgusting fight, in my opinion, this next fight. Another striker versus grappler match. We got Arichi Long going against Johnny Munoz Jr. We got Arichi Long, 30 years old, 5'7" with a 69-inch reach. Johnny Munoz Jr., 30 years old, 5'9" with a 71-inch reach. Same age there. We got Johnny Munoz Jr. with a 2-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. Arichi Long, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. A decision loss to Jeff Molina, a decision loss to Cody Durden, a knockout win against Cameron Else, a decision win against Jay Perrin, and then a knockout loss to Eamon Zahabi. As far as Johnny Munoz Jr., a 2-3 in his last 5 fights, decision loss to Nate Maness, submission win against Jamie Simmons, knockout loss against Tony Gravely, decision win against Ludovic Shalidian, and a decision loss to Daniel Santos. So I don't know what was up with Johnny Munoz Jr. in his last fight against Daniel Santos. Like, he literally quit in that fight. He was pulling guard, and he didn't want to strike with Santos, which was kind of weird because against Ludovic Shalinian, who he's whatever, but that was the best Johnny Munoz Jr.'s ever looked in the striking department, but he just had nothing at all from then striking against Daniel Santos. So he was pulling guard. He looked like he just didn't want to be there against Daniel Santos. Arichi Long got knocked out in the first round in his last fight against Ayman Zahabi. We got a striker versus grappler matchup here. Johnny Munoz Jr. going to be looking to get the fight down to the mat. Arichi Long going to be looking to keep it upright here. Close fight, dirty fight. Like, I'm not high on either of these guys, but we got to pick them here. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like Munoz here, to be honest with you. He's 2 inches taller. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage. He's got a similar amount of UFC experience compared to Quileng. But here's the thing, dude. Johnny Munoz Jr., 7-0 to the submission in his career. Arichi Lang in 34 professional fights. This dude is 1-2 to the submission. So you got to believe that if this fight gets to the ground, that Munoz is going to have a good advantage. So then you look over at Arichi Lang's takedown defense, 55%. He's been taken down 8 times on 18 attempts, being controlled almost 26% of his UFC career. And while Munoz isn't the most, he's not the most efficient grappler because he's got 32 takedowns attempts, and his opponents only have attempted 7 against him. So he's attempting like 80% of the takedowns in his fights, but he's only getting 53% of the control time. So while Munoz might be a solid wrestler and a high volume wrestler, as he's averaging almost 9 takedown attempts per fight, he's not really good at holding guys down, and he might be a little bit submission over position when he gets fights to the ground. But that's not necessarily a bad thing against Quileng, who's just not a particularly talented submission grappler. Quileng is 8-1 to the KO, and it's Munoz who's 2-1 to the KO. So obviously Quileng's going to want to keep this fight standing, but I don't know if he has the ability to do that. And while this fight's on the feet, he's going to be the shorter dude. He's going to be at a 2-inch reach disadvantage here. So unless he can really just kind of like pressure Munoz and try to walk him down, which means that he might walk into double legs, that make it really easy for Munoz to get this fight to the ground. I just don't like it. And we even see Quileng kind of getting pieced up by Jay Perrin at the end of their fight in the 3rd round. Perrin was close to finishing him there. And Quileng's got 50% distance striking defense, while for Munoz, it's 72.5%. So, we're just seeing completely different levels of defensive responsibility on the feet, a big grappling advantage here for Munoz, and some size advantages here for Munoz. And, I think that Munoz has probably fought the better level of competition in the UFC with Daniel Santos, Gravely, and Manus in there. While for Quileng, it's Molina. Durden's a really good level, but Cameron Else, Jay Perrin goes out there and he gets slept by a guy who fights like 1 time every 3 years in Zahabi. So, yeah, I mean, I like Munoz here. It's a closely lined fight for a reason, though. I think both guys are live. But I really think that, at a pick'em, the value's on Munoz here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess as far as a pick, I am going to go the other side, but with like little to zero confidence. I was actually impressed with Arichi Long's takedown defense. I know on paper it sucks, but he was doing a really good job against Jay Perrin in terms of stuffing the takedowns. Perrin did hold him against the cage for like 2 or 3 minutes in that 3rd round. But, getting taken down 5 times by Cody Durden, I don't think that's the worst look in the world. I mean, Cody Durden's just freaking animal. Like, Durden took down Charles Johnson 11 times. So I don't hold it against him too much. But yeah, like you said, it's a close fight. If Munoz is able to take down Arichi Long, secure position, he probably could sub him here. I know Propaholics looking at that submission prop. But it's a fight that I just really want nothing to do with here. And it is a pick. It looks like Murata was plus money for a while. I think prop got him at plus 125. So prop beating some more alignment, but there he's now minus 113. Arichi Long is currently minus 107. I think in terms of nicknames, this fight's not even close. Arichi Long is the Mongolian Murderer, and it looks like Johnny Munoz is. What's his nickname?
Kid Kavenbo.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know
what that means even. So
yeah, I mean, if we're betting based off a nickname, I mean, it's not even close, but we're betting based off of the fight stylistically, striker versus grappler matchup, which I do think is a close fight. I don't really see any reason to bet this. Maybe the under actually opened up at plus money. You got like striker versus grappler, Munoz with the submission game, or Ricci with the power, but I'm not laying chalk on the under here. It's now minus 120. Any thoughts on money line, a prop, anything for this fight?
Yeah, I briefly looked at the over when it was like plus 130, and then it moved. And then I was like, yeah, no. And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, man, Colan could knock anyone out. He's got serious power on the feet, and he hits really hard. And he doesn't really have a whole lot of respect for his own safety. So he's willing to get in the pocket there and swing. And then with Munoz, he's very live to submit anybody. The guy's been, he was raised in a jiu-jitsu gym. So this guy's been competing at a high level. BJJ, he got his black belt before he was 21, I think. So, I think both of these guys are kind of live to finish. So I'm really glad that I didn't jump on that over, even though it was plus money, because I could see either one of these guys getting a finish.
Yep, I lean finish, but nothing I'm running to the window for. All right, so we'll move on to the next fight, and I'm gonna double check. I mean, is this fight? Why is this fight on the prelims?
You tell me, dude.
I mean, I don't know. It's not even the featured prelim. The featured prelim is Kowalkiewicz Belbiţă. I mean, what's going on?
I have no idea. I mean, those fights on the main card are all pretty damn good, but yeah, Lynn's Cuțelaba, but Cuțelaba is always an exciting fight. Dober, Dober's a veteran, but he's fighting Ricky Glenn. He should murder Ricky Glenn. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, Chris Gutiérrez against Montel Jackson in a stacked division, two really good prospects. Yeah, this should absolutely be on the main card. And I think that it's still only Sunday, so I think maybe cooler heads will prevail here and they won't fuck this one up.
Yeah, I mean, at least make it the featured prelim. I mean, that's disrespectful. Why is Kowalkiewicz Belbiţă the featured prelim? I don't know. But it is what it is. We'll watch it anyway. We got Chris Gutiérrez, 32 years old, 5'9" with a 67-inch reach. Montel Jackson, 31 years old, 5'10", 75-inch reach. We got Montel Jackson 1 year younger, 1-inch height advantage, and a massive 8-inch reach advantage. Chris Gutiérrez, he has 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Andre Yul, a split decision against Philipe Colares, a knockout win against Dana Bakary, a knockout win against Frankie Edgar, then a decision loss to Pedro Munoz. As far as Montel Jackson, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Decision loss to Brett Johns, knockout win against Jesse Strader, decision win against JP Bays, decision win against Julio Arce, and then a knockout win against Ronnie Yaya. The first thing that jumped off the page to me for this matchup, Weezy, was Montel Jackson is actually fighting someone good. I mean, Montel Jackson's just been taking easy matchups. He's probably minus 1,000 about against Ronnie Yaya. He was a massive favorite against JP Bays, Jesse Strader. What are you doing, Montel Jackson? But he's finally fighting a good opponent in Chris Gutiérrez here. Montel Jackson's going to be bigger. He's going to have a massive reach advantage. He's a good striker. And most importantly in this matchup, he's a really good wrestler as well. This guy's completing takedowns at a ridiculous accuracy. I think it's almost 70% takedown accuracy for Montel Jackson there. So Montel Jackson's a favorite. I do lean towards Montel Jackson. I think he should be able to win this fight, especially in the wrestling department. We saw Cody Durden come up a weight class on short notice and go out there and just dominate Chris Gutiérrez. I think Jackson has the path here to win this fight. Kind of a striker versus grappler matchup, but we know Montel can absolutely strike as well, and Montel's going to have a big reach advantage in the power advantage as well, but Chris Gutiérrez, very, very good striker. But I think Montel Jackson can really win this with the wrestling. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this fight here?
Yeah, it's time for Montel to make a run, dude. He's got to quit fucking around and taking these fights against subpar guys, the Jesse Strader fight was a fight that was made. Strader was his first opponent. Why is he taking that fight? That makes no sense. He should have been minus 2,000 against Strader, and then the next one's JP Bays, but he beats Julio Arce. That's a good win, dude. Arce's a really good fighter. And then he fights a 53-year-old guy in Hani Yaya. And it's what the hell is going on here? Yaya's got one of the most padded records in the history of the UFC. Dude's got 13 wins. You can't name one guy that he's beaten that has a winning record. It's incredible. So I think Montel Jackson is so much better than Chris Gutiérrez, to be honest with you, dude. Chris Gutiérrez just doesn't have impressive UFC wins, period. Look at him. Dude, there's not one good win there. Frankie Edgar was completely washed when he fought Edgar. Dana Batgary is not great. Batgary knocked out 3 bums, but he's not a well-tested fighter at this level, in my opinion. Colares, rest in peace, Felipe Colares, just not a great fighter either. Andre Ewell, I don't really rate that win. And then he lost to Munoz, and Munoz is getting up there. Munoz is pretty one-dimensional, a phenomenal submission grappler who doesn't wrestle, and he outpoints Chris Gutiérrez on the feet. Montel Jackson's going to have an 8-inch reach advantage. He's the much better wrestler. And not to mention, Brady, what happens if this goes into the clinch? Montel's going to murder this dude in the clinch. His hands are gigantic. They're as big as Francis Ngannou's. This guy gets wrist control on you. He can move you anywhere in that cage and just absolutely use that length, those elbows, those knees. Chris is a really good distance striker who uses his kicks to be very accurate. He goes to the legs, goes to the body a lot, and you can tell by that 57.6% distance accuracy. He throws very little volume, only 10.2 distance strike attempts per minute. That's about 1.47 less than the divisional average, but he's landing 5.87 and only absorbing 3.1. So phenomenal accuracy, phenomenal defense on the feet. He out volumes his opponents. But Montel Jackson's throwing way less volume, but Christ's sake, the guy's got a 3.18% knockdown per significant strikes landed. He's landing knockdowns on 6% of the distance strikes that he's landing, and he's going to be at an 8-inch reach advantage here. And Chris is going to constantly have to worry about Montel getting inside there, getting his arms around him, working for that wrestling, working for that top control. This guy's winning 70% of his control time positions, Montel Jackson. For Chris Gutiérrez, he's only winning 25%. So even though Gutiérrez is a phenomenal striker, I don't even think that it's guaranteed at all that he's the one that wins the minutes. And I think he's even less likely to win the moments there. So, yeah, I see why Montel Jackson's a big favorite here. He's just got serious cheat code measurables for this division, and he's very well-rounded. He's dangerous wherever the fight goes. But, we're going to have to see how he handles this step up in competition, because he's been fighting bums, with the exception of Arce and Brett Johns and his other loss, who I forget it was a while ago, but he lost to Ricky Simone, who's a phenomenal fighter. So, yeah, Montel's lost to some real G's, and he's beaten guys whose combined UFC records are 30 wins and 31 losses. And that's with, beating an aged Ronnie Yaya, who's 13-4 in the UFC. You take that win out, he's beating guys that are like 17-27.
Yeah, you take a look at Montel Jackson. In his 2 losses, in both those losses, he got out-grappled. He got out-wrestled. Johns took him down 8 times. Simone took him down 7 times. So, I like this match. He's not too big of a favorite, I think, right?
He's 200.
Yeah,
right?
minus 185 for
Okay.
Jackson, and then plus 160 for Gutiérrez. Yeah, a ton of advantages for Jackson. We probably should be a bigger favorite. Not sure what's going on here. I don't know.
Yeah, well, Gutiérrez is a stud. The guy's 7-2 in the UFC. It's just that I think that record is a little bit deceiving. He's beating guys that have a less than 500 UFC record, and that's with a win over Frankie Edgar in there, who's like 18-10 in the UFC or some shit. So you take out that Frankie Edgar win. The guys that he's beating have a combined record of 13-23. So, it remains to be seen if Chris Gutiérrez has a Montel Jackson level win in him at this, at the UFC level. And I don't know that he does.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see. But yeah, I do like Jackson, and I don't mind the minus 185, but we'll see what happens there. And then I
I think it probably goes over as well, but I'm guessing the over's juice. Let's see. The over 2.5 is minus 161.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't touch that because both of these guys have got some pretty good power on them. Gutiérrez, 1% of his distance strikes landed, result in a knockdown. And for Jackson, it's 6%.
Yeah, Jackson's very, very dangerous. But yeah, it should be a good fight. And like I said, I'm shocked it's on the prelims. We don't have to spend too much time on this next one, Weezy. I mean, I could care less about it. We got Karolina Kowalkiewicz going against Diana Belbiţă. We got Kowalkiewicz, 37 years old, 5'3" with a 64-inch reach. Belbiţă, 27 years old, 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. Belbiţă, 10 years younger, 4-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage. As far as Karolina Kowalkiewicz, interesting. She is now 3-2 in her last 5 fights. A loss to Yan Xiaonan by decision. Submission loss to Jessica Penne. A submission win against Felice Herrig, a decision win against Silvana Gomez-Juarez and Vanessa Demopoulos. And then as far as Belbiţă, she is 2-3 in her last 5 fights. A decision loss against Molly McCann, a submission loss against Luana Jojua, a decision win against Hannah Goldie, decision loss against Gloria DePaula, and then a decision win against Maria Oliveira. So it's interesting. You know, Karolina Kowalkiewicz at one point, I think, lost like 5 fights in a row. And I could have sworn that she was going to probably retire after that Felice Herrig fight, win or lose. She ended up going out there looking really good, submitting Felice Herrig, and then she rattled off 2 more wins. A decision win against Silvana Gomez-Juarez where she looked decent, and then a decision win against Vanessa Demopoulos where she looked really, really good on the feet there. So yeah, she's now 3-2 in her last 5 fights. She is 37 years old at this point, but yeah, she's looked a lot better in the recent year or so than she had when she was on a 5-fight skid. Diana Belbiţă, I don't know. She losses to Gloria DePaula, that's inexcusable. A loss to Luana Jojua, it's inexcusable. And then a loss to Molly McCann is inexcusable. A win against Maria Oliveira and Hannah Goldie are just not great. So I think this probably should be Karolina Kowalkiewicz. She is the favorite, but she's 37 years old. Belbiţă's going to be younger, bigger, but I'm just not sure Belbiţă's that great. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there's some reasons to like Diana here. Kowalkiewicz is a gamer. She's scrappy. She's been around 22 pro fights, 11 years in the game, 250 minutes of pro cage time. And she's fought, like the who's who of the division. I mean, you sum up the records of everybody that she's fought, 88 wins and 74 losses at the UFC level. It's a pretty good, that's a pretty good strength of schedule for women's divisions. And she throws a lot of volume on the feet. Landing 5.95 significant strikes per minute at distance is pretty good. Not much in the grappling. She's pretty efficient there, though. Karolina only has 4 takedowns. Her opponents have taken her down 13 times. Karolina's attempted 13 takedowns. Karolina's opponents have attempted 56 against her, but she's still winning almost 41% of the control time positions. So she's doing a really good job of keeping fights standing, using her wrestling in reverse, and then keeping the fight on the feet and throwing a lot of volume, out-voluming her opponents, winning by decision 7 of 8 times at the UFC level. But the thing about Belbiţă is, if you're not taking her down and winning minutes there, it's going to be difficult to win minutes on the feet because Diana's throwing 22 significant strike attempts per minute at distance. That's 8.95 more distance strike attempts than the divisional average. She lands almost 9 per minute and absorbs about 7. Positive 1.86 distance strike differential. She outthrows Karolina by like 6 distance strike attempts per minute. So she's staying a lot busier. She's landing a lot more. She's about 3% more accurate at distance on average and is almost as defensively responsible. So almost 11 years younger, 4 inches taller, 4-inch reach advantage. And even though she's 10 years younger, almost 11 years younger, she's got just as many pro fights as Kowalkiewicz, and she's got 5 fights at the UFC level. And let's face it, other than the submission win against or the loss against Liana Jojua, those fights have been close. I mean, like Molly McCann beat her, but Molly McCann's a much better boxer and a lot more powerful in the pocket. With Diana, You don't have to worry about her knocking out anybody at this level. She's a high volume minute winner, but not somebody that you really have to worry about getting dropped by. But she's going to use that length and she's going to use that volume, and the conditioning is there to go the full 15. So I like Deanna to actually win this fight, but Karolina's been on a bit of a heater lately. She used to be training in Poland at Lodz, LODZ is the name of the city, the team that she was training with there. And we have a guy that we know, Brady, that is a Polish guy who knows some of the people that owns gyms out there. So he can give us some information. And what I was hearing before that Penne fight was that Karolina was like training with 18 and 19-year-old guys, you know, who hadn't even filled into their bodies yet and were close to 120, 125 pounds. And she was just getting really low-level reps in the gym. She was almost done. She lost that fight to Penne, which was embarrassing because she went into Penne's guard for no reason. The only way that you could have given her a chance to win that fight. And then Penne wins by armbar. But then she goes to American Top Team, follows Joanna Jędrzejczyk over there, and then now here subs Felice Herrig. You know, Felice retired after that fight, so maybe not the greatest win. She wins by decision over Sylvia Gomez Juarez, very close fight. And then she beats Vanessa Demopoulos, you know, who's probably one of the only girls with a shorter reach than Karolina. So, I mean, I think I like Deanna to get the win by decision here.
I mean, I'm not gonna, argue too much. I actually thought about betting Karolina, then I kind of saw the line. I mean, if Karolina loses this fight, it's gonna be the worst loss of her career by a mile. I mean, look at these losses for Karolina. Claudia Gadelha, back when Gadelha was pretty good. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, she's pretty good. Jessica Andrade before she turned into a bum. Michelle Waterson Gomez, Alexa Grasso, she's pretty good. Yan Zhao Nan, she's pretty good. Jessica Penne, it's questionable, but if she loses to Belbiţă, I mean, it's going to be the worst loss of her career. But yeah, it is probably going to be close. Do I really want to lay chalk on Karolina Kowalkiewicz? Not really, but as far as a pick, I am going to pick her. I say decently confident, but how confident can you really be? Karolina's minus 154, Belbiţă's plus 134. The over is probably, yes, it is, minus 375 to the over. I will be happily passing on this one. And we spend way too much talking about this fight.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the next one, brother.
Let's move on. And we got Pick'em in the chat asking how you're doing, Uncle Weezy.
Yep, I'm doing good, man. Look, I'm fired up to be back. Well rested, well vacationed, Brady. And here we got a card with some decent spots sticking out. A lot of juiced favorites. Looking forward to it, man.
Yes, sir. All right, let's move on to the main card opener. Yeah, like this main card is really good. We got Alexander Hernandez going against Bill Algeo. We got Hernandez, 30 years old, 5'9" with a 72-inch reach. Algeo, 34 years old, 6 foot with a 73-inch reach. We got Hernandez, who is 4 years younger. He's going to be at a 3-inch height disadvantage and a 1-inch reach disadvantage. Alexander Hernandez is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Decision loss against Thiago Moises. Knockout win against Mike Breeden. Submission loss to Renato Moicano. Knockout loss to Billy Quarantillo. Then a decision win against Jim Miller. As far as Bill Algeo, he's 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A decision loss to Ricardo Ramos. A decision win against Joanderson Brito. A knockout win against Herbert Burns. A decision loss to Andre Fili. And then a submission win against TJ Brown. And I was researching this fight, and I thought to myself, man, I think Alexander Hernandez is probably the more talented fighter, but Alexander Hernandez is missing 3 key things in this matchup, in my opinion. The first one being cardio. This guy slows down so bad in fights. The second one is heart. He has not shown great heart. He's getting finished late in fights. Looks like he's looking for a way out. And then the third is durability. I really question the durability, the toughness of Alexander Hernandez. Where on the flip side with Bill Algeo, he has durability. This guy Algeo's next level durable. He has incredible cardio. He can go 15 minutes hard, no problem. And he has a ton of heart and toughness. So I think those attributes are in favor of Bill Algeo. So although I think Hernandez is probably the better fighter, like I said, more skilled, he can get takedowns here easy. Bill Algeo's takedown defense is trash. Alexander Hernandez can wrestle. He can get takedowns. I think Hernandez is the better striker, but I think he's better for probably the first 7.5 minutes. And then I think Hernandez is going to start to crumble with that pressure, that pace of Bill Algeo. I mean, that TJ Brown,
the pace that Algeo set there, I don't think Hernandez is going to be able to keep up with that pace there. So I do like Algeo. I'm going to look for like a live bet. I really think that Hernandez is going to win this first round. I think he can get takedowns. I think he might be able to even hurt Algeo early, but as this fight goes on, I do expect Algeo to take over and potentially get a late finish or win those last 2 rounds. Weezy, I know you have a bet on this fight. What are your thoughts on this one here?
Yeah, so the bet that I have on this one is the over 2.5 rounds. I got it at plus money. I don't have a lot of faith in Algeo as a finisher at this level. The fact that he finished a complete moron in TJ Brown, who's easy to finish, it is what it is. And then you finish Herbert Burns, who has the most laughable cardio maybe in the history of the sport. I've never seen anybody gas out as early as Herbert Burns that wasn't like a 265-pound heavyweight. Burns is a 145er. How the hell are you getting tired at this level in 2 minutes? So, but Algeo sets a pace, man. He really sets a pace, and his grappling efficiency is really good. You look at the fact that Algeo has only got 12 takedown attempts, and Algeo has had 48 takedowns attempted against him. So that means basically 1 out of 5, 20% of the takedown attempts belong to Bill Algeo, but he's winning 43% of his control time position. So when you take him down, the guy's virtually impossible to hold down, and he can always get back up. That's really frustrating if you're a wrestler, because you're gonna spend way more energy trying to take this guy down than he is gonna spend getting back up. In addition to that, Algeo throws a shit ton of volume on the feet. 16.38 distance strike attempts per minute here, 4.37 more than the divisional average. He puts a pace on his opponents, and he's 48% accurate. And he can mix in the grappling in his own right. Bill is 7-2 to the submission in his career, while Alexander Hernandez is only 2-1 to the submission in his career. So there's a lot of things to like about Algeo here, but Hernandez is over 3 years younger. He's got a lot of experience, even though he's the younger guy, and he's even more experienced at the UFC level. He's got a lot of power on the feet, that's for sure. We know that Hernandez can absolutely hurt you, especially early in fights. And Alexander's the more willing wrestler. He attempts 4.3 takedowns per 15 minutes, while for Algeo, it's only 2 per 15 minutes. And Hernandez outcontrols his opponents 14% to 8.5%, winning about 62% of the control time positions that he's been in. And he's fought the much better brand of competition at the UFC level. I mean, the guy came out here and beat Beneil Dariush. He beat Aubin Mercier, and then he lost to Cerrone. And then he's been, he lost to guys like Moicano, who's a stud, Quarantillo, who's a stud, Thiago Moises, who's a good fighter. But, when he gets that step down in competition, like against Mike Breed, and he goes out there and shaves his ass. He shaved Chris Gritzmacher's ass. He beat Jim Miller in a very good fight. Good veteran win there for Hernandez back up at 155. So he's dropping back down to 145, 2 of his last 3 fights. Including this one coming up at 145, which is where he wants to make his permanent home. But, Bill Algeo, much bigger, he's longer, 3 inches taller too. So there's a lot of things here to like about Algeo. And he's just a good fighter. He's very good all around. He's very well tested. He's a veteran. And that pace and that output is very difficult to deal with, especially if you're the type of guy that tends to fade late in fights. And I mean, we saw Thiago Moises absolutely own Hernandez with the striking in the 3rd round of their fight. So, yeah, Hernandez better land something big early here. Otherwise, I think Algeo is going to take over down the stretch. I think Algeo wins this fight by decision. And I like my over 2.5 rounds bet at plus money here, because I think if Algeo does get a finish, it's going to be really late in the fight.
Yeah, I probably will be sprinkling those Algeo late props 2-3, just because Hernandez, I hate. I mean, if he, like I said, if he had cardio and toughness, I'd probably be betting him here. And I know a lot of people are going to be on Algeo this week, and I am picking him because I think I have to, but I have a weird feeling about this fight. Algeo minus 131, Hernandez plus 111. We'll see. Hernandez is only 30 years old, so he still could be going out there making improvements. He's training at a good gym. I think he's skilled. I really do. I like the striking. I like the wrestling.
But it's just the cardio, the toughness, the condition. I mean, it's not there. So we'll see. But I do like Algeo as well. Minus 131. I don't know how I feel about it. What are your thoughts on the money line here?
Yeah, I think it's a fair line. I don't mind the plus money on Hernandez, and I think that there's good reasons to lay a little bit of juice on a fighter like Algeo. But I think what I'd like even better, Brady, is a Bill Algeo finish only prop. This dude is fucking durable. He's only been submitted. He's never been knocked out. And it's not like Alexander Hernandez is this phenomenal submission threat. So I think if somebody gets a finish here, it's going to be that volume of Algeo, as Hernandez has been finished in 4 of his 5 UFC losses and in 4 of 6 of his pro losses. So I favor Algeo's durability here, his pace, his conditioning. And as a result, I think a finish only prop at close to pick 'em could be a cheeky way to play this.
Absolutely. One of these guys is durable, one is not really. Algeo good for draft. Yeah, they did actually get salaries out like super early. So shout out to DraftKings for that. I haven't looked into it. I'm going to look into it probably tomorrow. But yeah, I'd assume so. The winner of this fight is probably going to score very well. All right.
Algeo scores 3.8 DraftKings points per minute, Brady. That's a really good pace. And so if you get a win by decision at that pace, you're looking at about 90 points almost just in a decision win. So yeah, Algeo would be a good play for DraftKings because you get him probably at better than 8,500, I think, this week.
Yep, for sure. I like it. All right, Weezy, let's move on to what should be a fun fight. Kind of a weird fight, but all Ion Cuțelaba fights are super weird, but it should be fun. We got Philipe Lins going against Ion Cuțelaba. We got Lins, 38 years old, 6'2" with a 78-inch reach. Cuțelaba, 29 years old, 6'1" with a 75-inch reach. We got Cuțelaba, 9 years younger. He's going to have a 1-inch height disadvantage, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach disadvantage. Philipe Lins is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Decision loss against Andrei Arlovski, knockout loss against Tanner Boser, a decision win against Prachnio, a knockout win against OSP, then a decision win against Maxime Grishin. As far as Cuțelaba, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. A decision win against Devin Clark, submission loss to Ryan Spann, Johnny Walker, a knockout loss against Kennedy Nzechukwu, and then a knockout win against Tanner Boser. So I went pretty deep into this fight. Like, I spent a long time on it, and I still have no clue what to even think of it. Because like I said, it's a Cuțelaba fight, and these fights are so hard to predict. This guy's an absolute madman. I was actually really surprised that they kept him in the UFC after a pretty bad run, getting finished, back to back to back. But they gave him another shot against Tanner Boser, and he went out there and knocked out Tanner Boser in the first round. This is a tricky fight for me. Philipe Lins is a guy that went out there. He won the PFL, won the $1 million. He came into the UFC with some hype. I was actually, pretty high on Philipe Lins, prior to him coming into the UFC. Then he went out there against Andrei Arlovski, looked horrible. He went out there against Tanner Boser, looked horrible. He went out there against Marcin Prachnio, looked pretty horrible. And then he went out there and has a good win against OSP and then a good win against Maxime Grishin. I think Lins is finally starting to put it together, which is kind of weird to say because he's 38 years old. But, ever since cutting down to light heavyweight, Weezy, he's 3-0. He's 3-0, and he's looked pretty decent there. Ion Cuțelaba is going to go out there. He's going to try to take down Philipe Lins, and he might do it. He probably doesn't. It's just the thing with Ion Cuțelaba is this. His cardio is not great, and he makes a ton of mistakes on the mat. Getting submitted by Johnny Walker is inexcusable. Philipe Lins is a black belt for what it's worth. I have no clue what's going to happen here, but I think it's going to be violent. I kind of like Lins as a dog in this matchup. I think he should have the takedown defense, or at least the ability to survive on the mat for long enough until Cuțelaba either gasses out or makes a mistake. And I think Philipe Lins' striking has been looking pretty good. So I actually lean the dog here with Philipe Lins, but Cuțelaba is just, I don't know, his fights are hard to predict at times. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, let me rattle off the names that Ion Cuțelaba has lost to in the UFC. His UFC debut, he lost to Misha Cirkunov by 3rd round sub. He lost to Jared Cannonier. He lost to former champion Glover Teixeira. He lost twice to a guy who probably should have been champion in Magomed Ankalaev. He lost to Ryan Spann, Johnny Walker, and Kennedy Nzechukwu. So, in short, I think basically everyone other than Cirkunov at this point that's beaten Ion Cuțelaba probably beats Philipe Lins. Linz's wins over Marcin Prachnio, the rotting corpse of Ovin St. Preux and Maxim Grishin, they're okay wins, but it's not something that, makes me believe that he's gonna beat somebody a step up over that cleanly. And Cuțelaba is a tough test for anybody. He's just a tough out. He's got a ton of power on the feet. He's got great wrestling. He's attempting 8.1 takedowns per 15 minutes. He gets 4.75 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's getting his takedowns at a 58% clip and out controlling his opponents 25% to 15%, winning 63% of the control time positions that he's in. And he's got decent striking numbers. He lands 4.02 per minute at distance and absorbs 4.18, negative 0.16 distance striking differential. But he throws more volume than Linz does, and he's actually a little bit more responsible, as Linz is showing sub 50% distance striking defense. And frankly, I think Ion's got more power on the feet. I really do. Some of these fights that he's losing, he's landing big shots early. It's just that Cuțelaba can't really keep the pace up for a full 3 rounds here. But I definitely think that he can win minutes with his grappling here. I think he's definitely fought the better brand of competition at the UFC level. He's 9 years younger, almost 10 years younger than Philipe Lins. And he's a lot more experienced overall and at the UFC level. So I think Cuțelaba is a lot more dangerous everywhere. He's much younger, and I think he might even have the power advantage on the feet here. So I like Ion Cuțelaba to get the job done. I still am not that thrilled with Philipe Lins. And you always have to mention with Lins, let's just get him to the cage first before we talk about whether we're betting the fight, because this guy pulls out more than Peter North. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But, I'm picking Cuțelaba here, I think.
Yeah, but you can't ever lay chalk on Cuțelaba, though, ever.
No, it's not a good idea. You're absolutely right about that. 6-8-1 in the UFC, Brady.
Yeah, you can't lay chalk on him. It's a dog or pass for me. Probably a pass. I actually don't hate like the under 1.5. This is gonna be a freaking car crash. I mean, all Cuțelaba fights are car crashes. So getting the under at plus money, I don't think that's the worst look in the world. Plus 110 right now. It opened up plus 125. I think the first 7.5 minutes are gonna be chaos. Absolute chaos.
What did you say? Is it still plus 110 for the under 1.5?
Yep. Yeah, 110
yes.
right now.
At that number, Brady. 11 of their 20 combined UFC fights have finished under 1.5 rounds. That's 55%. And at this plus 110 line, we're paying about 47% on the line. So it's about 7% better there. These guys are going under 1.5 rounds, about 10% better than what the division has as a whole. And then the price of the line is only 2.38% more expensive than the finish rate for the division. So yeah, the under 1.5 at plus money is definitely something that my prop template likes here. A lot better than the over at minus 140.
Yeah, because if it doesn't finish in the first 7.5 minutes, both these guys are probably completely gassed and we get a decision. So a lot of these guys are front loaded, especially Cuțelaba. I mean, just super, super front loaded there. But yeah, should be a fun fight. I get why they put it on the main card. Maybe not the most high level fight, but a very fun fight. Nonetheless, another fight, which I saw this fight was announced and I was like, what? Like, who sanctioned this fight? Who sanctioned Drew Dober versus Ricky Glenn? But I guess we're going to try to get, Dober back on track here. We got Dober, 34 years old, 5'8" with a 70-inch reach. Ricky Glenn, 34 years old, 6 foot with a 70-inch reach. Same age there. Glenn's going to be 4 inches taller, same reach. Dober is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Decision loss against Brad Riddell. Knockout wins against Terrence McKinney, Rafael Alves, and Bobby Green. Then a knockout loss against Matt Favola. Ricky Glenn is 2-2 and 1 draw in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Dennis Bermudez. A decision loss to Kevin Aguilar. He took like a 3-year layoff. Came back, knocked out Joaquin Silva in like 60 seconds. Had that draw against Grant Dawson. And then a knockout loss against Christos Giagos where he just looked horrible in that fight. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. Drew Dober should be Drew Dober all day. Should be Drew Dober by knockout. I'm guessing he's a big favorite, and he is minus 425 for Drew Dober. Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised that Drew Dober got knocked out. He's one of those guys where we never thought he'd get knocked out, but Favola went out there and did it. I think they're getting him back on track here. I think Drew Dober's styles on Glenn and probably finishes him within the first couple rounds. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Rick Glenn took 2.5 years off between the Aguilar fight and the Silva fight. So he wasn't getting any younger at that point. And then he fought Grant Dawson 4 months after the Silva fight. Then we saw another 1.5 year layoff. And after that layoff, Brady, God, did he look awful. He just looked like he was about to get knocked out just walking into the cage. It was like, holy shit, dude, Rick doesn't look good, and then you look and it's like, oh boy, 34 years old, 2 straight, 4.5 years of layoffs almost just in the last 6 years of fighting for this guy. And he's just coming off looking like dog shit against Christos Giagos. Ricky is 4 of 29 on his takedown attempts in the UFC, Brady. 13% takedown accuracy. So, I don't know if he can really win minutes on the ground against Dober. The one thing Glenn is just really spectacular at, to be brutally honest, is when he gets on top, he is a fucking menace. Do you remember that Gavin Tucker fight? Remember what he did to that dude?
Oh, yeah.
He absolutely took him apart, and he was taking down Tucker and punishing him. When he got on top of Grant Dawson in the 3rd round, he damn near finished him. Got a 10-8 in the 3rd round of that fight. So if Ricky Glenn gets on top of Drew Dober, look out. I think he might be able to knock him out with ground and pound. But anything outside of that, you got to picture Dober punts this dude's head into the cheap seats, don't you? This doesn't make any sense. Rick Glenn looked awful his last time out. And here you got Dober coming off of, the loss to Favola, but he knocks out Bobby Green. He knocks out Rafael Alves. He absolutely destroys Terrence McKinney after surviving an early onslaught there. Loses a decision to Brad Riddell, but yeah, Drew Dober's the much better striker here. Drew Dober is actually the older guy, so it's going to be Glenn, who's a little bit younger, like 6 months younger. He's like almost 6 inches taller, and they have the same reach. It's a southpaw versus southpaw matchup. Those are always pretty interesting. Both guys, power hand will be open for business there, but they'll both be able to work their jab as well. But yeah, Dober's the better striker. He's a lot more active at this point in his career, just fighting the better level of competition. So yeah, got to go with Dober here. I just don't know how to play this one. The under is pretty juiced to the tits here. What do we got? Minus 214. Yeah, for the under 2.5. I mean, that's pretty overpriced, even though 15 of Dober's 21 fights have finished under 2.5 rounds. So I see why it's juiced like that, but I can't get to that. I can't get to Drew Dober coming off a knockout at minus 425. God forbid Ricky Glenn gets on top of him. So, I mean, I think that this is probably the easiest stay away on the card, the 1-800-GAMBLER fight of the week. I think Dober probably knocks out Ricky Glenn in round 1, but I'm not exactly sure how to find bets that are plus EV that point to that outcome.
Yeah, absolutely not. You got to like the Dober by knockout is going to be juiced. I mean, he's a massive favorite. Dober by KO is probably going to be like minus 150, something like that. So yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a pretty easy pass. I mean, if you're into parlays, I don't think Dober's the most terrible parlay piece in the world, but not something I'm going to do. But I'm pretty confident he goes out there and beats Rick Glenn. I mean, Rick Glenn looked like terrible in his last fight. If he shows up looking like that, Drew Dober probably finishes him in like 60 seconds. I mean, I don't know what was up with Rick Glenn. He looked awful.
Yeah, he's getting up there, and there's just been a lot of layoffs. Like we say,
probably injuries as well.
Yeah, and that could certainly be it too, Brady, because at that age, it's just harder and harder to come back from injuries. And 2.5 year layoff, 1.5 year layoff, definitely not what you want to see from a 34-year-old coming off a first-round knockout loss to Christos Giagos. So, yeah, you got to like Dober here. I just don't know how to make money off of it.
Yep, agree. All right, move on to the next fight. We have Alex Morono going against Joaquin Buckley. We got Morono, 33 years old, 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. Buckley, 29 years old, 5'10" with a 76-inch reach. We got Buckley 4 years younger. Buckley with a 1-inch height advantage and a 4-inch reach advantage. Alex Morono is 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Decision win against David Zawada. Decision win against Mickey Gall. A decision win against Matthew Simmelsberger. A knockout loss to Santiago Ponzinibbio. And a submission win against Tim Means. As far as Buckley is 3-2 in his last 5 fights. A decision win against Abdul Razak Al-Hassan. Knockout win against Albert Duraev. Decision loss to Nazarene Imavov. A knockout loss to Chris Curtis. And then a knockout win against Andre Fiallo. Weezy, we have a striker versus striker matchup. And that's because Alex Morono just refuses to wrestle ever. Alex Morono has 4 takedowns. I think like 3 of those came in like the Reese McKee fight out of nowhere. But Alex Morono is a black belt in BJJ, really good grappler. But he just doesn't grapple. So I think these guys are going to strike. And I like the striking of both guys. But I think the big difference is Joaquin Buckley has a massive power advantage here. So striker versus striker matchup. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, a massive power advantage for Joaquin Buckley and an even bigger athleticism advantage. I mean, come on, man. With that ridiculous knockout that he got over Kasangane, you know, I don't even think Alex Morono could jump over a hurdle, you know. And like Buckley, you know, I mean, is just like 10 times more athletic than Morono. But I mean, let's face it, dude, Morono's a fucking G. This guy is, you know, 12-5 in the UFC. He's fighting really good guys. You know, you add up the level of competition, the records of the guys that Morono has fought in 18 UFC fights, 122 wins and 114 losses. This guy's been in there against some really good guys. He knows how to win minutes. He knows how to throw a lot of volume. He's very durable. And like you said, if it gets into the grappling exchanges there, the guy is really not out of his depth against anybody. Morono's 7-0 to the submission in his career, while Joaquin Buckley's 0-0 to the submission in his career. So, you know, one of these guys has more paths. That's Morono. But, you know, Buckley's almost 4 years younger. He's got a 4-inch reach advantage. He's got, you know, he's a pretty experienced guy in his own right. Ton of power on the feet. Probably the better striker here. Better minute winner and moment winner, I think. And Joaquin's you know, his fights are standing over 80% of the time. So I don't think he's going to be out of his depth here against Alex Morono, who is a very good striker, who's a very good minute winner on the feet. Alex is 8-3 in decisions in the UFC. So guy's a really good minute winner. I think Buckley, better moment winner, more athletic. Morono, more experienced, better minute winner, better grappler for sure. So I think it's a really close fight. I think it's a very intriguing fight. I don't really know which way I'm leaning, though. Which way are you leaning?
I think I ever so slightly lean towards Buckley potentially knocking him out. I mean, the Morono fight against Ponzinibbio wasn't the best look, where Ponzi kind of knocked him out in that 3rd round. Prior to that, got knocked down by Simmelsberger in that 3rd round. And Buckley's just an absolute animal. If this does go to decision, though, I think it's going to get very, very interesting. But I kind of lean towards Buckley knocking him out. But I don't want to lay minus 190. I don't love that for Buckley. Plus 165 for Morono. I think maybe a decision only for Morono might be decent, because I am pretty worried about him getting knocked out. But if this does go the full 15, he probably does the minute winning here in terms of just landing a lot more volume. But yeah, it's a close fight. Don't really understand the minus 190 there on Buckley.
Yeah, you know, he's really not even that much bigger. It's actually Morono who's an inch taller here. Buckley's got that reach advantage, and he's the southpaw in the southpaw versus orthodox matchup. So yeah, there's some reasons to like Buckley on paper here, but let's face it, Morono's fought the better brand of competition. Morono's more experienced. Morono's the better grappler. And even in the Ponzinibbio fight, he's winning the first 12 minutes of that fight, and then he gets clipped. You know, he could be 5-0 in his last 5 fights. So Alex Morono at plus 160 on the money line, yeah, I think that's a really good look. And if you can get decision only at plus money as well, That's even better because then you don't have to worry about if Alex does get clipped here, because Buckley's got crazy power and he's got crazy athleticism. So, his explosiveness could change this fight on a dime, no matter who's winning up until that point. So, yeah, I mean, I think that there's some reasons to like these prices on Morono's money line and whatever we're going to see on that decision only prop on DraftKings.
Yep, I can agree with that. I think my picks me Buckley KO, but I think the line's off, and Moreno's definitely a live dog as long as his chin and durability holds up, which it has for the most part of his career. So, but Buckley hits very, very hard, so we'll see. The under is juice. Don't really want anything to do with it. If you like the under, you probably like Buckley. If you like the over, you probably like Morono. I think it kind of lines up that way. So not much sticking out in that aspect of thing. Any thoughts on the over under?
Let me look at it right now. That over is plus money. And it's priced pretty good because it's a 54.5% over 2.5 rate in the welterweight division. We're only paying 46% here, but Buckley's fights go over 2.5 rounds 2 of 10 times, but for Morono, it's 11 of 18. So when you add that up, it's 13 of 28, 46%. So it's just it's priced exactly with the implied probability of the line at plus 115. So definitely my prop template likes the price of the over a lot better than it likes the price of the under, but I don't think either one of those lines is way out of whack.
Yeah, nothing really sticking out to me either. But yeah, we'll move on to the co-main event. We have Joseph Pyfer going against Abdul Razak Al-Hassan. We got Pyfer is 26 years old, 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. Al-Hassan, 38 years old, 5'10" with a 73-inch reach. Pyfer, 12 years younger, 4-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. Joe Pyfer, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, had a injury against Dustin Soltis on the Contender Series, and he redeemed himself against Ozzy Diaz a couple years ago, won that fight by second-round knockout, made his debut against Alan Amadovsky, won that fight by first-round knockout, and then knocked out Gerald Mearshart in the first round as well. Abdul Razak Al-Hassan, he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights, knockout loss against Chaos Williams, decision loss against Jacob Malkoon, knockout win against Alessio Di Chirico, decision loss against Joaquin Buckley, then a knockout win against Claudio Ribeiro. So, Weezy, it was actually funny. So I was watching Joe Pyfer's podcast with Sean Brady, and Joe Pyfer was talking about his fight with Gerald Mearshart. And Joe Pyfer not only bet his life on not only him winning, Weezy, he bet his life on the knockout prop. He said, I bet my life on the knockout. And I took that to heart, Weezy, because I've never heard a guy bet his life on anything, but Joe Pyfer bet his life on the knockout prop. And then I bet the knockout prop for Joe Pyfer. So I'm gonna listen out for his interview. I want to see if it's gonna be a sub or knockout this time. But yeah, he called it, he nailed it, and he knocked out Mearshart in the first round. I cashed a knockout prop there. Al-Hassan is very dangerous. He's getting up there in age, 38 years old at this point. Both these guys are very, very dangerous. There's a reason that this under 1.5 is extremely juiced. I think somebody's getting served here. I think somebody's getting served here in the first round. I think Pyfer is a big favorite. For a reason. I mean, I wouldn't lay minus 500, whatever, on him because Al-Hassan is super dangerous, but Pyfer is going to be better pretty much everywhere. I think Pyfer has a very, very big advantage in terms of the wrestling, the grappling. Al-Hassan, his takedown defense is atrocious. Pyfer is, I think, a black belt in BJJ, training with Sean Brady and them. So he does have grappling in his back pocket. I think it'd be kind of wise to maybe go to that rather than standing and banging with Abdul Razak Al-Hassan, who's much more dangerous than Gerald Mearshart and Alan Amadovsky. But yeah, I think Pyfer should win this fight, but going out there and laying minus 425 against a guy like Al-Hassan is not something I really want to do, but I see why he's a decent sized favorite here. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this fight fucks, man. I mean, this is such great matchmaking here. 2 guys with ridiculous power. 2 guys who are savage finishers. Abdul Razak Al-Hassan, 12 professional wins, all 12 of them by finish. Joe Pyfer, 11 professional wins, 10 of them come by finish. So, yeah, 22 of their 23 combined wins are finishes. Al-Hassan, 12 knockouts. Pyfer, 8 knockouts and 2 submissions. And, like, with Pyfer, you got a guy who's got power in both hands, What was it? Let's see. overhand right knockout versus Alan Amidovsky, a right hook KO knockout versus Austin Trotman, a picture-perfect left hook KO versus Ozzy Diaz on Dana White's Contender Series. He drops GM3 with a huge left. He finishes him with ground and pound. So Joe Pyfer's got savage knockout power, and he's a well-rounded fighter. Like you see earlier in his career that he'll stay behind the jab a little bit. He'll throw some combinations. He'll box. But like these last two fights against Amidovsky and Mearshart, Pyfer is just stalking. He kind of reminds me the way that he's fighting in his last two fights of Priscilla Cachoeira, where that right hand is just up by his own chin and it's just locked, loaded, ready to go. Whenever he throws it, he's never going to try to go even 75%, 80%. It's always 100%, and it's meant to send you into the shadow realm. But the problem here is that this line doesn't make any sense. Abdul Razak Al-Hassan honestly shouldn't be plus 375 against anybody. There's nobody, even Joe Pyfer isn't more dangerous than Abdul Razak Al-Hassan. If these guys stand in the pocket and trade, it's 50-50. Either one of these guys touches the other, that's it. So to get a guy like Abdul Razak Al-Hassan at plus 375 is kind of a gift, because at the end of the day, win or lose, that this guy can knock anybody out. In addition to that, you look at the recent performances, right? He knocks out Alessio Di Chirico, looks fantastic doing it. I mean, a mind-blowing head kick knockout, shows the power. Joaquin Buckley, he goes out there, close first round with Joaquin. He's completely gassed 1 minute into that second round, and Buckley styles on him. Razak goes back to his corner, his corners in his face, saying, you got 5 minutes, you got to dig deep, you got to come out here and fight like this is your last 5 minutes of his career. And Razak Al-Hassan goes out there and wins the third round against Buckley, gets 3 takedowns, over 3 minutes of control time, and is landing massive ground and pound at the end of the round. We're seeing Abdul Razak Al-Hassan at the age of 38 actually start to evolve now, Brady. Elevation Fight Team. In that Buckley fight, he showed the ability to not only fight through early adversity, fight through being tired, but he started to mix in the grappling late in that fight. He showed that he could go to a plan B and win minutes with a plan B, and he came damn close to winning moments at the end of that fight. And then against Ribeiro, he's going out there. Ribeiro's blasting his calf, gets 2 or 3 good calf kicks in there. Then he starts checking him. And then he clinches up with Ribeiro, wins the minutes into the clinch, because he's very likely to do that because he's a judo black belt with great balance and tremendous strength. And then he goes out there and he clips Ribeiro in the second. And for the first time in his professional career, Brady, he gets a win outside of the first round. And he did it by fighting smart and using the entire toolbox. So, yeah, Abdul's 38. Yeah, he's been first round knockout or bust all but one time in his career. But I'm starting to see him actually kind of turn the corner here. This new camp that he's at, he's rounding out his game. And guess what? He's always been dangerous. He can always knock you out in the very first round. So at plus 375, Brady, this guy has cost me so much money, and I've been wrong so many times on Abdul Razak Al-Hassan fights. What fucking difference does it make if I'm wrong one more time? At this point, it's just, it doesn't even mean anything. But plus 375 will be much easier to deal with, than some of the times that I've gotten burned back in this dude as a favorite. So, yeah, I think Pyfer wins this fight. I think he wins it probably by first round knockout, but I think the number is just silly.
Yeah, Al-Hassan was actually plus 425 September 30th.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yesterday. Yeah.
Yep.
Now he's plus 360 on DraftKings Sportsbook, best price out there. Yeah, I mean, I'm picking Pyfer as well, but I'm not laying the minus 425. I think the submission problem might be really sneaky as well because Al-Hassan is actually tough. He's been knocked out once in all of his losses. I think Pyfer might have a big grappling advantage here. We saw Malkoun almost submit Al-Hassan a couple times in that second round. I think the under 1.5 is solid.
Yeah.
But it's minus 240 for that. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe fight won't start round 2, but I think they'll be all over that as well. Al-Hassan, you mentioned it, 12 wins, 11 in the first round, and the one that came in the second was 28 seconds into the second round. So all 12 wins coming under 1.5. Under 1.5 potential parlay piece. I think we're getting violence in this one for sure.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think it's going to be a very violent fight. But I just think if Pyfer trusts his power too much and doesn't want to go to that grappling early, I think it looks a lot closer than what the line currently suggests. Both of these guys have got one touch power, and that means variance.
Maybe Bet Rivers will hang a Al-Hassan plus 1,700 first round prop like they did for Brundage.
You never know, dude, especially at the number that they're already putting him at. They're already telling you at plus 360 that he wins this fight around 22% of the time. So, yeah, you could probably get something close to 10-1 on a first-round knockout prop for Al-Hassan. That would not be a bad way to play this. But, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think Pyfer is going to win this fight, but this line just seems silly to me.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point. If Pyfer wants to go out there and test his striking, I mean, he still could win that as well. It's just, if he tests his striking, does he look minus 425? Probably not.
He could wind up looking minus 1,000. He could go out there and land a shot and be like, oh my God, Pyfer did it again. 3 straight first round knockouts, But look, I mean, this is Abdul Razak Al-Hassan. The guy touches you, you die. So I can't wait for this fight. I'm so excited for this fight. This is brilliant matchmaking and a really good co-main event on a Midland card here, but this is great matchmaking. This is the kind of shit that we need on cards like this. Great fights.
Heck yeah. Really good matchmaking there. All right, Weezy, we got the main event. Before we get into it, if you guys have not already, be sure to like this video. Also, subscribe here to Pub Sports Radio. Me and Weezy go live every Sunday, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time. We got the main event, Grant Dawson going against Bobby Green. Grant Dawson, 8 years younger, 29 years old, 5'10" with a 72-inch reach. Going to have a 1-inch reach advantage there. Bobby Green, 37 years old, 5'10", 71-inch reach. Grant Dawson is 4-0 and 1 draw in his last 5 fights. Knockout win against Leonardo Santos, 3rd round. Draw against Ricky Glenn, 3rd round sub against Jared Gordon, 3rd round sub against Mark Madsen. Decision win against Damir Ismagulov. As far as Bobby Green, he is 2-1 no contest in his last 5 fights. Decision win against Hack Brass, knockout loss to Makhachev and Drew Dober, the no contest against Jared Gordon, and then a submission win against Tony Ferguson. I mean, Dawson's a pretty big favorite here. I guess the only thing that worries me about Dawson in this match, because I think Dawson's phenomenal. I think he's in his prime, or if not in his prime yet, he's getting very close. He's 29 years old. He moved to ATT, and his fight against Damir Ismagulov was actually the first full camp he's had. And, man, it showed. I mean, Grant Dawson just finally putting it all together. His striking's been improving, but it's that wrestling that's just incredible. His control's incredible. His cardio's looking much better as well. I think we're now seeing the best version, or getting close to seeing the best version of Grant Dawson. And I don't think Bobby Green's going to be able to do anything about it. I don't think Bobby Green's going to be able to stuff takedowns. I don't think Bobby Green's going to be able to potentially survive on the mat here against Grant Dawson, who's very, very dangerous. The thing that does scare me about Dawson, though, is, what happens if this fight does get into the 4th and the 5th round. It was just a couple fights ago where, Dawson was death gassed against Ricky Glenn, just death gassed to the point where after that 3rd round, Dawson couldn't even get up. James Krause had to go and pick up Dawson, take him to the corner so the ref wouldn't wave off the fight after the 3rd round ended there. So the cardio is definitely concerned with Dawson. I think it has improved, but if it does get extended, I'm going to get a little bit concerned in terms of laying this just massive price tag of minus 400 on him. I think Dawson actually finishes Bobby Green. I think it potentially comes within the first, couple rounds, probably 3rd round. I think that's when Dawson loves finishing fights. He has like 3 or 4, maybe 5 3rd round finishes in the UFC. Double check on that, but I think Dawson probably finishes Green before that 4th round starts. So yeah, Grant Dawson has 1, 2, 3, And then a couple came in the second round there. So second and third round finish for Dawson, I think, is kind of where I'm leaning. Minus 400. I mean, it is what it is. Weezy, what are your thoughts on this main event?
Yeah, it's minus 400, dude. You know, you and I both had Grant Dawson at plus money versus Ismagulov, and that's one of the best bets that I made all year. That one should have been a 5-unit bet, and there wasn't 1 second of that fight where it looked like Damir Ismagulov even had a chance. So, and don't forget, what was Ismagulov's takedown defense going into that fight? Like approaching 90% or something like that?
It was like almost, it was something crazy, yeah.
Yeah, you know, and people were like, dude, this guy's takedown defense is only 90%. And I'm like, dude, he doesn't even need to take him down. This guy could get to somebody's back when they're sleeping flat on their bed. You know, I mean, like this guy is absolute master of not just getting takedowns, right? 29 takedowns in 9 fights. That's good, you know, 3.77 takedowns per 15 minutes, but it's the control time, Brady. This guy's got 9 fights, 115 minutes in the octagon. He's got 63.8% control time. He's only allowing 7.8% against. He's winning 89% of his control time positions, and his fights are in control time positions over 71% of the time. You look at this number right here for Grant Dawson, the one that I just highlighted there. 28.36% of Grant Dawson's fights take place at distance striking range. And for Bobby Green, that number is 75.24%. So Bobby's an efficient grappler in a massive sample size of 22 fights since the year 2013 in the UFC. This guy's got 264 minutes of cage time, and he's being controlled less than 10% of his UFC cage time. So, you know, it's going to be up to Dawson to get this fight to the ground and stay there, but that's really what he does best. He gets the takedown, he gets to your back, and then he either stays there for the rest of the round or he gets the submission. But if Bobby Green does stop some takedowns, if he is able to keep those feet moving, if he is able to box up Grant Dawson from a distance, you know, he wins this fight. You know, I mean, if Grant Dawson is not getting takedowns and not getting to Bobby Green's back, you know, Bobby Green's going to be the bet of the century because he's going to make this look easy. He's the far better striker. Those metrics over that massive sample size are incredibly impressive. 6.73 distance strikes landed per minute, only 4.38 absorbed, over 48% accuracy, over 64% defense, almost 14 attempts per minute. Bobby Green is a phenomenal striker. He's fought the much better brand of competition. He's a lot more experienced than Grant Dawson. But with Dawson, you got a guy who's, you know, over 7 years younger. He's got a 1-inch reach advantage. And he's just, I mean, absolutely phenomenal at winning minutes with his grappling, which is something that we've seen Bobby Green in a couple of different fights struggle with.
Yep. I mean, I think it should be Dawson here, but minus 400. No, thank you. The under actually opened up at 4.5, which kind of surprised me. Like, I think Dawson has a pretty good chance of finishing this fight here. So I don't mind like the under, maybe 3.5. Maybe the fight won't start round 4. Because like I said, if this does get to round 4 and Bobby Green's still there, I think it could start to get pretty interesting there. But yeah, I think Dawson probably finishes Bobby Green there on the mat. I think, you know, Bobby Green's not able to stuff takedowns, and Dawson's just leveling up each and every time we see him in the cage there. So yeah, I like Dawson. I like Dawson finish. I think that's about it. Any thoughts on that? I mean, the under's just gotten smashed since it opened. It's minus 190 now, and it's probably going to get moved to 3.5 soon, though.
Yeah, so hard to lay minus 190. I hate laying juice in the first place. And, you know, minus 190 for a guy like Green, you know, who's not the best finisher, and for a guy like Dawson who can get to your back and stay there, but not necessarily finish either, we could wind up seeing it go over. But if you made me make a bet, I definitely have my money on the under. I just don't want to pay that kind of juice.
Yeah, I don't want to pay it either. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what sticks out there. But yeah, Weezy, we did it. It feels good to be back. And yeah, we have 3 weeks, 3 decent. We have 2 Apex cards, then we have UFC 294, and then we get a week off, and then we come back to some bangers, man. UFC 295 is going to be ridiculous. I wanted to go to that card, but the cheapest price is like $900. But that card's stacked, and then to end the year, we have 296, which is another just ridiculous card. So we have 9 cards left to end the year, 3 of which are 3 really good pay-per-views. So looking forward to ending the year strong. And yeah, like I said, glad to be back. It's been a while. Feels like it's been a while. It really hasn't.
Yeah, man. I mean, dude, I just had like the worst day yesterday. 9-hour flight from Paris to Chicago, 3.5-hour flight from Heraklion to Paris, 5-hour layoff in the Paris airport. Then had to go through customs in the U.S., wait for my luggage. Then I had to take the train home, and then it was like a mile walk with 3 bags from the train to my place. I slept for like 12 hours last night, but I'm well rested from a beautiful vacation, and now we're in the home stretch of the year. So I'm really looking forward to finishing this year strong. And it starts, Brady, with UFC Vegas 90, baby. Let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks and make these bookies cry.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Thank you all for watching. Subscribe on your way out, like on your way out. Go check out Weezy on his channel. I'll be doing Just the Tip. I'll be putting out some content tomorrow for Contender Series. And yeah, guys, best of luck for UFC Vegas 80. We'll talk to you guys very soon. See you.